covering the rarest skins of the past and present, loot boxes and what to look for in Hunter's Chest, how to find special skin events that are not in the events tab, the different skin types, events, and progressives, and finally the best loadout somebody can have, which will cost you a total of $12,000. And starting with loot boxes, before we get into Hunters and Archivist chests, we need to talk about the original loot boxes, one of which contain what can be considered the rarest skin in the game. And this comes from the Equinox crate, and there's a lot of different crates that operate the same as CSGO crates if you're familiar with those, where you just can buy a crate from the market and it costs $2.50 to unbox it. And most of these crates contain garbage, and even if you hit the rarest item, you're not going to get your $2 back. However, the Equinox crate has a 0.0009% chance to unbox the olive branch pan, and if you hit it, it sells for around $2,000. But keep in mind the odds to open a CSGO knife is 0.26, which means the pan is roughly 300 times more rare, which is crazy, and these crates don't drop anymore like they used to, so it's more or less a limited supply at this point, so happy hunting. The modern version of these loot boxes are much more friendly and free and easy to acquire, and although they don't have the olive branch pan in them, they still have some of the most sought after skins, since they pretty much contain every single skin in the game that's not tied to a crossover or a special event or the really old school skins, which means Hunters and Archivist chests will have pretty much every modern Battle Pass skin as well as all the shop skins, tournament skins, and everything else. And you can see the full list by viewing the probabilities on the store page to see if there's something that you're looking for. And the differences between the Archivist and Hunter's chest is the Archivist chest is for premium currency and tends to have higher rarity things and sets of items instead of just singular pieces, which is what the Hunter's chest specializes in. However, what a skin collector is looking for is not those ultra rare red rarity items. They're sometimes looking for the lower rarity ones, some of which are only available individually, so you're not going to find them in the Archivist chest, and they can only be found in the Hunters. And the items you see floating around on the screen right now are the ones that typically go for high prices on third-party sites or general things worth noticing if you unbox them. And when I say third-party sites, there's ways to buy skins and not put it on your account immediately, and some people resell those codes, but it's not official, and the only official way is the Steam market, but that's only for old school skins. And there's a lot of cool skins outside of the clout skins in the Hunter's chest, so go with whatever you think looks cool. But that said, the cheerleader outfit is amazing if you play in first person because the pom-poms are visible on the arms, as well as there's a lot of really cool camo options, and a well-camoed player will be your worst nightmare on some maps. And it's also worth noting that you can reroll 3 items of the same rarity for more chances at the skin you're looking for, and by the way, if you get to the point where you own every single item of a rarity, it will just give you tokens like you dismantled it. But those loot boxes are exclusively for wearables, and in the hideout tab you can also find loot boxes for weapons. Tickets can be acquired through gameplay or purchased, and again, you can view the odds, and there are pity systems in place in case you don't, but this is still a slippery slope, since even if you hit the less than 1% chance, you're then going to want to upgrade your skin to make it glow and have other effects. And this will cost schematics and polymers that will require you to open even more crates and scrap other progressives if you happen to pull them. And every time it's upgraded, it will cost you even more, which will potentially end up setting you back a lot of money if you're committed. And I'll talk about totals when I tally up the best loadout at the end. And there's even a progressive character skin now, which was how you get the drop trail and other effects. And that might even be the new future of PUBG skins. That's certainly where PUBG Mobile is gone, but who knows. And some of the rarest PUBG skins have been tied to region-specific events, and the in-game's news tab is influenced by your system's regional settings, so it's worth checking the news tab regularly, especially if you're in regions such as Asia, where there tends to be unique and limited time promotions, and not just the event tabs that usually people look at. And I mentioned item rarities earlier, but if you've been playing this game for a while, you might have some incredibly rare skins already. I would scroll down to the bottom and look for your black background skins. Those are your limited skins. A quick Google search can tell you how it was acquired, and you might already have something worth wearing like an old rank skin. And some select other rarities can be limited too. The system isn't perfect. However, keep in mind a lot of these rare skins are obsolete, like the skin that came out the same time as the Shroud skins that people rave over, and honestly probably less people own this than the Shroud skins, since more people probably bought the skins of the big name PUBG streamers. But the only people that are going to recognize this shirt and get hyped are the streamer himself, or I guess people who watch this video. As well as a lot of the skins that used to be the most hyped things that were sold for well over $100 now cost less than an hour at a minimum wage job. And there might even be cooler recolors of those skins out there, and there's also plenty of old rare skins like the ones you got from Gamescom when the game released. And are those still rare and worth buying if nobody's going to recognize it and looks like your average common skin? Let me know in the comments. I'm genuinely curious what you think. That said, some of the old skins around the game release can be considered some of the most rare and expensive skins, one of the most notable ones being the Reaper's Mask from attending the 2018 Global Invitational Tournament, and that will go for around $2,000. As well as there's a set for pre-ordering or playing the alpha. But the only thing that people really cared about were the red shoes that currently go for $100-ish, and they used to go for $250, but they re-released them just for a weekend in a throwback event. So there's no real guarantee that someday PUBG won't just shadow drop the Reaper's Mask again and tank the market, but for now it seems like they're sticking with just recolors. So what is the best possible loadout you can have? If you had an unlimited budget, what would that look like? Well, starting with the obvious, the Reaper's Mask would be your mask. The Vikendi Snowsport glasses are by far the most recognizable eye slot, and they're from Chinese events or old promos. Hair and makeup would be difficult to acquire without the rerun of the events, which has happened, but it would be the Joker or Harley Quinn hair, and you would want the La Katrina makeup. But to be honest, this section does not really matter a ton since it's mostly covered, and we'll just set aside $20 for whatever limited hair and face paint is available. Best hat is kind of up in the air. There's some really good ones you can't get anymore, but if I had to pick one that has a price, it would have to be the Razer bucket hat since you had to buy the Razer Viper V2 Pro mouse, but you can also just find a key for around $80 instead of buying the new mouse. For a shirt, by far the rarest is the DMM Samurai shirt, which is from pre-ordering the game through a Japanese vendor, but only a couple of those exist and you're not going to be able to get one, so honestly any old school or Chinese event shirt will work. And if we're going with price tag, I've seen some of the Panda TV shirts which were only given to Asian streamers floating around for around $2,000, but just like the hair and face paint, assuming you have a decent jacket, this will just be filled with any limited shirt, so I'll just put a random Chinese event shirt for $5 so the total doesn't get too crazy. As for jackets, it's either going to be one of the various crossover biker jackets or the silver and gold biker jackets, which fluctuate in price, but a rough estimate for all of them would be around $1,000, and there's plenty of other crazy options you won't be able to get, like the Ares or Partners jackets, which are only given to select streamers or people who like won tournaments and stuff. Gloves would likely be the Shroud gloves, but again, unattainable, so we're going to go with the Haybox Chinese gloves. The pants would have to be the Survivalist slacks, which are in the same set of the Reaper's Mask, and again, $2,000. And as for shoes, it would have to be the High Top Trainers Red from the beta, which brings our total to just over $5,000, but we're not done. Now for the bonus bits. Olive Branch Pan, $2,000. You can have 2 weapons equipped in the game, so 2 max progressive skins would be around $1,700 each, assuming you don't get lucky, as well as you would want a colored smoke grenade and smoke pistol. Helmets and vests, you can find some pretty ones in the Hunter's chest, or just get old tournament skins in the market, so we're going to only say $10. And you'd also want a ranked parachute, but that requires you to play the game and be decent, so we're just going to go with an old tournament parachute on the market. And finally, you have to cruise around in style, so you'd want a car skin like the Lambo, which will roughly be $700, and that's not even bringing in paint jobs, and that brings our total up to around $12,000. And keep in mind those prices might only be going up, assuming they don't rerun things like the Reaper's Mask will only get more limited. And I hope this was educational, and if you have any more questions that weren't answered in this video, feel free to leave a comment and either me or somebody else will hopefully be able to answer it for you. Thank you for watching.